Holy cow, the intro worked.
I was so into it.
It's supposed to work.
Yeah, I was into
That's something. That's the first time that's happened in a while.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. It's Friday night. It's around 9 p.m., give or take. Welcome to the What's on Joe Mind TeamStream. We are a fan cast about the world of G.I. Joe. I'm Mike Irizarry. With me, of course, this evening, former head of the brand at Hasbro, the honcho Mark Weber.
That's me. The once and never king. Good to be here.
Also joining us in lieu of the absent Joe Colton, but that's all right. She's got a paying gig this week. Joining us, G.I. Joe author, Valaverse Action Force author, Bill Nedrow is filling in tonight.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight.
The Professor, Bill Nedrow. Make sure
I win the sweepstakes for not mispronouncing Bill's name.
There you go.
Let's be honest. I mispronounced it like the first 3 months we knew each other.
I mean, if it were Gary, he would still be mispronouncing it. Like him and I, we'd have sat down, done a 30-minute coaching session. Nedrow, and he would still be mispronouncing it.
Well, and I sent it, kind of phonetically. And you texted me back and said,
Mark sends me a text, and now, mind you, I already knew this, but Mark sends me a text.
I want to make sure it's covered.
Yeah. Remember, it's pronounced Nedrow. And my reply was like Ned Beatty, which I thought made perfect sense.
And I said, kind of weird that you automatically went to Ned Beatty, but at which point I got challenged about famous Neds. And I could only come up with Flanders.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, if it was on, and yeah, I mean, those are the top two that come to my mind.
I think that's about it, right? It's a short list.
Yeah.
I went with American Cinematic Treasure, Ned Beatty.
There you go.
Don't sue me.
So, and believe me, I've been called much worse than either of you could have come up with. So,
hey, believe me, you grow up with a name like Irizarry, I have literally heard everything.
I'll bet.
So,
I don't get Weber that often, but when I do, it's like the record scratch. It's just like, it's like my wife was originally a Schrader, but it's spelled Schroeder, and like she doesn't even like the Peanuts character, right? Because he's
part of the problem.
He's perpetuating a lie. So I know how it can be to hear it the wrong way growing up.
Well, I teach. One of the things I teach is reading, and of course, on the first day of class, I have to go around and try to pronounce 20, 25 people's names, and I know 7 of them are leaving the classroom at the end of the day going, can this guy even read? Like, how did he slaughter it that badly?
I gotta say, and frequently in the call outs, we pub up our teachers out there. Ragtime Rob is a teacher, and my parents are both teachers. And this week I had the opportunity to substitute teach for a first grade class at a very small Christian school. So I had 1 kid on day 1, and 4 on days 2 and 3, and 6 on day 4. And day 4 almost broke me.
My first day of class, I just used to pay attention to roll just till we got to the H's. And then I knew that, once it came with Mike, and I would just immediately turn that pan went in the air. That's me.
There we go.
But,
you're one of those Irizarry boys, are you?
Well, I mean, I had the other standard to hold up to, because Ragtime Rob is, of course, he's a couple years older than me, and he was the super student, right?
Uh-oh.
So I was a good student. I was a very good student, but I wasn't quite to what he was. So I would, I'd be the kid with the A-, and people would look at me like, what's wrong with you?
Right. You were disappointing for an Irizarry.
Yeah. God, it went, when my parents are even saying, Give the kid a break, would you? Like that says it right there. When my folks are not on your side on that one.
Only a 3.9 GPA.
Right. You only made the high honor roll, not the double super secret honor roll.
Right.
Anyways, if you're watching us on YouTube tonight, welcome. We appreciate you. Hit the little like button underneath the film and subscribe to our channel. We would really appreciate that. If you're watching us on Facebook, leave a little reaction, whether it's a thumbs up or a heart or the little huggy guy. We love the little huggy guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that lets Facebook know that you're paying attention, and we really appreciate that too. Whatever helps spread the word. We did put out some bonus content this week. So when we're done here tonight, make sure you head on over to the YouTube page and check out the first episode of the reborn Joe Colton Presents Postcards from Losertown, where we finally get to recreating the Losertown segment, and we respond to messages left to Joe Colton in her various social medias. Then, yeah, we have fun.
And if you thought the pandemic would slow down that element of our, you want to say fandom, we'll just say society, you would be mistaken. There was a lot of free time. It sounds terrible if I say on people's hands. People had a lot of free time this last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And might not have used it in the most
productive of ways.
Right. Might have needed an outlet that maybe wasn't healthy.
Yep.
And speaking of the Queen of G.I. Joe cosplay, she's not with us because
she is at RetroCon in Oaks, Pennsylvania, at the Greater Philadelphia Convention Center. And bear with me. I actually have that in the PowerPoint.
Oh, coming up.
We just there we go. That's okay. I'll just get in there now.
We're going right to it.
We're going right to it. We're going right to it.
And I gotta say, I love your show, but I don't understand the thinking that this is a replacement for the beautiful and talented Joe Colton.
Well, it's a different demographic, but we're all eye candy. I mean,
we can't all bring it in like the honcho does.
No.
Frankly, it probably helps us a little bit when we don't have both Joe and Mark on the same show, because it helps break it up a little bit.
I suppose that's true.
There you
Look,
go.
you go. I spent all week talking to first graders and coaching soccer games. I'm just so happy to see some adults, and you guys qualify. I think.
Wow.
Barely.
Yeah. Well, I'm moving on up. So.
Joe Colton is at RetroCon.
Dun, dun, dun.
And on Saturday, she will be Cinnamon. I'm going to, sure. And then on Sunday, she'll be the more familiar Cobra Femme Trooper. So if you are in or around Philadelphia, Pennsylvania this weekend, stop over. See Joe Colton.
Gotta say that Cobra Femme officer, right?
That's true, yes.
She didn't spend 4 years at Cobra Finishing School to be called a trooper.
Other guests include William Catt, who is TV's greatest American hero, Dan Gilveson, who was Slipstream on G.I. Joe, George Lowe, who's TV Space Ghost, Ian James Cormitt, who is Goku from Dragon Ball Z, wrestler Matt Cordona, the Cybertronic Spree, and others. Tickets are $20 at the door on Saturday, and they are open 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and they are $15 on Sunday, and that they are open that day 9 to 4. More information can be found at retrocons.com.
That's a pretty good Ank Cinnamon cosplay, or Ank Sucky Man, or whatever. I don't know. I honestly don't know who that is, but I'm sure it's a spitting.
Careful.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a spitting image. But of course, the Cobra officers, classic, right?
Absolutely.
And Wes is alongside, I believe, is a Witcher probably, or a Green Arrow, or a Hawkeye.
The wristlock did not make the trip this weekend.
Oh, he didn't go.
No, the wristlock is at home. She is there with little brother Guillermo.
Okay, well, I think that means one less handler, and I mean that in the professional sense, means she's probably striking a lot more people this weekend.
That's true. I don't think people understand how much violence the wrist lock saves people from. Like, he's really taken one for the team there.
Absolutely.
But
Joe Colton is handsy in a terrible sense of the word. Like, it's mainly eye pokes and karate chops and way too hard slaps on the back and knuckle crunching handshakes. And
not a terrible sense, but definitely a terrifying sense.
Oh my goodness. Like, poor Pennsylvania. Like, they have the Pirates.
But hey, it's Philadelphia, so.
Yeah, that's true. It's a tough town. They booed Santa Claus, but they'll cheer Joe Colton, I guarantee.
Hey, in fairness to the folks in Philly, halftime was over. He had to get his fat butt off of the field.
That's right. Move it, Grandpa.
Yeah, get on.
Get a job, old man.
Take your elves on out of here and make your toys somewhere else.
I always thought it was a little, I mean, I guess maybe this is more of an indictment, but when Michael Irvin went down with an obvious neck injury.
Yeah.
And they were coming out to stabilize his neck and they were going nuts.
Right.
They're doing the wave.
Right.
While Michael Irvin tried to see if his head was still attached. That's silly, man. One touchdown.
Yeah. They booed Mike Schmidt 4 times a day, every day for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's tough town.
You're jealous of his gorgeous red hair. Can't blame
best
him.
Third baseman in the history of baseball. They booed him. Well, except for the 580 sometimes he hit home runs.
Yeah.
Or 548 or whatever it was. Except for those times. They didn't boo him then, but all the other at-bats he had, boos.
A-Rod thinks Mike Schmidt could have been a better player.
A-Rod's producer thinks that he could have been a better player.
No, I'm pretty sure A-Rod does. But
A-Rod doesn't think about that. It doesn't involve A-Rod.
A-Rod doesn't think, yeah. True. Next news item.
Anyways. Let's go ahead and do the news first, then we'll chat with Bill a little bit. How's that sound?
Yes.
All right. First news item. Paramount's CEO has exited the company.
Why?
Way back on September 10. This is back as we were gearing up for our week sabbatical. Paramount announced that CEO Jim Giannopoulos would be stepping down from his positions as chairman and CEO, according to the Hollywood Reporter. Brian Robbins, who runs Nickelodeon for parent company Viacom CBS and used to be an actor on Head of the Class, will take over for Giannopoulos. According to the magazine, the perception is that Robbins is more attuned to the needs of streaming service Paramount Plus, which is believed to be the company's top priority at this time. It is also believed that Paramount will be scaling back its motion picture budgets and pulling back from making big-budget tentpole pictures like Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. So I don't think the failure of G.I. Joe Origins, Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins rather, was a total cause and effect of this. But I mean, it couldn't help. It's certainly not a check in the win column for Jim Giannopoulos. It's just, one of any number of losses. But what do you guys think about this? It's not really G.I. Joe news, but how do we feel?
I think it's funny that the only blood shed from that whole movie was the head of the studio. Right? Like, there's not a drop of blood, I think, on screen in that entire movie. And given that they fight with swords for 2 hours, it's funny that the only guy who really got cut was the head of the studio. So, no, I don't think the failure of Snake Eyes moved him out, but obviously Paramount's been struggling for some time. So let's hope for new leadership.
Bill, what you had?
It's telling that they didn't hide behind, well, we released this when people don't want to go back to the theaters. They have an excuse, right? I mean, they could just say people aren't ready yet. We put it out too early. So it interests me that they're making a change, and I wonder what the move to streaming foretells for the future.
I mean, aside from tongue in cheek and Snake Eyes and everything else, it is a really interesting time for the entertainment industry, and I I think if they said they know what's coming or how to handle it, I think any one of them is probably lying. Like it's a real seismic change right now. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Hopefully, I don't even know if we can hope for anything, Joe, for a while. Maybe what we need to hope for Joe, because we know there is supposedly a entertainment animation coming. Maybe the Lady J thing. Maybe if we can get some momentum back behind the brand with some smaller wins,
Right.
then maybe that's where we can hit. Because I've always said, and I'm not. This isn't me with my brilliant idea, because 8 billion people agree with it. Is you can make a really good Joe show based on something smaller, right? And it's that Chuckles Last Laugh, fantastic series that IDW put out that you can do, because it's Wise Guy, right? It's mainly hallways and meetings and hangars, and only at the end, spoiler, is it the big underwater submarine base, right? You can film that thing pretty cheap. And then it's just based on the writing, because the story's already good, so you can do it. I don't know if they weren't ready for it. I pushed for that really hard when I was at Hasbro, and I just never got any traction and never had the pull to make anything like that happen. But I was hoping to convince somebody who did that they should go with it, that they had a ready-made script, at least 2, maybe 3 seasons leading up to the big deal. But it didn't happen then. I hope it could happen now.
To give a quick correction there, Mark.
Oh,
Viper reminds us Snake Eyes cut himself with a brother handshake with Storm.
Yeah, fine. Whatever.
There's your bleeding.
Yeah, fine.
So is that what you're expecting from Lady J? Not necessarily a big over-the-top action stuff, but more cloak and dagger infiltration?
I mean, I think they chose her for a reason, right? I think they wanted to go with a little more infiltration, with a little more covert ops. Just to keep the budget down a little bit, right? Yeah. Like if it's the new G.I. Joe show starring Ace, there's going to be some planes involved every week, right? So I think they did that. I think that's very intentional, and I think they wanted to make it female for sure. So if you're going to do that, the other one who was always getting a ton of pub while I was there, we haven't really seen it materialize, was Helix. Helix was always a favorite within the walls of Hasbro. I think because if you break down her, I want to call them abilities, they're not powers, but she is essentially on the spectrum, right? And pretty far on the spectrum. And I think they really like the kind of synergy in the storytelling there, that you are pushing 2 different buttons that are so rarely tied with heroic characters and certainly action adventure heroes, right? Women are getting more play than they used to, that's for sure. But hardly anybody has characters on the spectrum at all involved. So to have that be a lead or a main character was always something they were very interested in. So who knows if that happens or if they still feel that way. It's been a while.
Do you think she almost leans in a little more to the superheroic side of things? Do you think that the success of like the Marvel movies especially is another factor that increases her popularity in Hasbro?
I mean, I think Marvel has. I think the entire industry, be it toy or entertainment, everyone has Marvel envy, right? Mm-hmm. Because they just did it so well for so long. I can't think of anything else that tied so many different things together nicely, right?
Yeah.
Like the one I still shake my head about is when Winter Soldier came out, which is maybe my favorite Marvel movie. And it's revealed that Hydra is within S.H.I.E.L.D., right? That S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't all on the up and up. And that following, I think, Tuesday on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the same stuff started to come crashing down. So they didn't jump the gun and do it on the show first. You saw the movie, and they knew the diehards would be there first weekend. And then it bled over into their live entertainment, which was obviously, I mean, both things were made way ahead of time, but the sync to do it that way for a show that that didn't swim in the same pool really as the big time Marvel stars, but was made to work in the same universe simultaneously. I thought that was amazing. So I know they love what Marvel's doing. I know that's what they wanted to emulate with the idea of a Hasbro universe of linked properties. But as big an idea as that was, G.I. Joe was supposed to be the tip of that spear. And when I was there, it was G.I. Joe 3. It was a totally different script. It was not a standalone Snake Eyes movie. So obviously that completely changed. But I don't think that changed Paramount's idea that if we're going to get to a Hasbro universe, G.I. Joe, whatever the next chapter of G.I. Joe is, will have to be the tip of the spear. And then we'll see about Micronauts or Mask or, God forbid, Visionaries, right?
Yeah.
So do you think the reception for Snake Eyes is changing how they're writing Lady J at the moment? You assume that there was going to be some synergy there between those two projects, and do you think that that may be changing now?
I don't know if it's changing it or not. I would assume that there's definitely some wringing hands and some worry that the Snake Eyes movie ended up being a dud, right? Their top A+ #1 can't miss character. So now with Lady J, but it just seems like the streaming services are so not starved, but hungry for content that I think I don't think it'll kill it, but I think they're more nervous about it than they were beforehand, definitely.
Okay.
So we'll see. And it'll, a lot of it'll fall on her. If she's the focal point, whoever plays Jay has got a lot of weight on her shoulders. But really, I think it'll sink or swim based on the writing, right? Like everything does, right?
Sure.
So
Right. Always does.
yeah, but if it's smart, because there have been plenty of shows kind of like that over the years. If it is Wise Guy or Alias, or if it's smart and engaging, and there's enough undercover work that there's some peril going on, that there's always that hint of danger at all times. I think it could absolutely work and work without a gigantic budget. And if they cast somebody great as Lady J, more is the better. Or even if they cast, I don't want to say an unknown, but so frequently when it's not that Jay is that truly well-defined as a character, but for me, it always works when they cast somebody you don't know that well. I think that's why Hugh Jackman works so well as Wolverine, because we didn't know who Hugh Jackman was, right, in '98. Even the kid who plays Spider-Man right now, right?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. Did anybody know who Tom Holland was before he got that star-making turn? No, and he's perfect, and he's perfect because of the writing, and he's perfect because he's great at it. But he's also perfect because I never look at him and go, "Oh yeah, that's that guy from Harry Potter," right? He's only ever been Spider-Man to me, and I think that's one of the reasons. Now that I've gotten really long-winded, why Ben Affleck as Batman was never, ever, ever going to work. Didn't matter what Affleck did. It was always going to be Ben Affleck, right, as Batman.
There
I was never going to lose him.
So much baggage there that too big of a percentage of folks had an idea going in.
Yeah, never going to lose him in that role. I can't, and that's not his fault. And I don't think he did a bad job. I just think it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, no, he was perfectly fine.
Yeah, if Marvel, when they reboot X-Men, right, throws Tom Cruise in as Wolverine, never going to work. He'll be in shape. He might be great, but it'll never work, right?
Yeah.
It'll never be.
That's where they're leaning too, because anymore, every time you see Wolverine, he's got that tooth right in the middle of his
middle
mouth.
Tooth. Tom Cruise's middle tooth. Look it up. It's creepy.
So do you think the new Batman they've cast is bringing similar baggage?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, maybe.
The only difference in that baggage is that the people who are complaining the most about that baggage never saw those movies.
That's true.
Yeah.
So they can bitch and moan about it all they want, but when they actually get to see him on screen, his actual performance will get to carry some weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
That's good
don't.
to
I
know.
don't think being Batman is very hard. I think pulling off Bruce Wayne and
Yes.
the conflict between the two, that's where the money is, so to speak.
Yes.
And that's why I thought, well, what's his bucket? Dark Knight Batman.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. I thought Bale nailed it. So, and we'll see. So I'm not, again, I don't know Robert Pattinson. I haven't seen a single thing he's ever done. So can he be Batman? Probably. Can he be Bruce Wayne? I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
He's got questionable eyebrows.
Yeah. If it wasn't him, it was going to be Idris Elba. So
Hey, less
Well,
questionable eyebrows.
it's
They had talked about casting him as James Bond too, right?
yeah. And man, I've gone round and round with that online because I love Idris Elba. And I love the idea that anyone can be 007. That's where that no spoiler here. That's where they are in the new movie, right? That Bond is retired, so there's a new 007. I got no problem with that. But as a fan of the Fleming books originally, it just feels like Bond to me should be how he was written originally. And I got to be really careful when I talk about that because I am all about diversity and I'm all about having heroes that lots of people, lots of kids can look at on screen and go, oh, that's me, or that could be me. I'm all about that. But I've always bristled a little bit when Marvel goes, female heroes, we got them. Look, here's a female Iron Man. Here's a female Thor. Here's a female this. Here's a female that. Here's a female Wolverine. And I'm like, I get it. I'm glad that you gave us 3 new female heroes this year, but I wish you didn't feel like you had to give them Stark armor and Mjolnir and retractable claws. Because if you thought you had to skin female heroes as a version of an already popular male hero, then we never would have got Storm. We never would have got Kitty Pryde, right? We never would have got I guess Captain Marvel really is the female version of the original male Captain Marvel, but
At least get out of the way, though.
Yeah, right. Like, so again, I'm always really careful because this is kind of a soapbox moment for me, but I love seeing more diversity on screen and on the page, but I like it even better when it's something brand new. Here's a new hero who happens to be.
Feels a little more organic.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels a little more genuine, like you didn't have to couch the introduction, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel they did that with Miss Marvel, or do you think that's just another carbon copy of something that came before?
I mean, at least the name and the outfit is the same. And I haven't read that much of the Miss Marvel stuff, though my daughter and I read the Captain Marvel comic whenever it comes out. But the idea that she was inspired by Carol Danvers, and that's why she took the name and wears the colors. But the powers are totally different.
Yep.
Right? So that feels a little more genuine to me. Like I can get behind that story. But I mean the guy who doesn't like, and I know everyone else does, I don't like 9 different versions of Spider-Man. Right? I like Peter Parker. I don't need, Miles Morales, truly. I don't need the Peter Porker, right? I don't need the old Spider-Man from a different universe. I didn't like the Spider-Verse movie, and everyone else did. I know I'm in the total minority there, but
look, in the Spider-Verse movie, they all went back home,
yeah.
So it's okay.
But I never liked the DC 50 different universes either, right?
Man,
I don't need 8 Supermen.
You're no fun. If you don't like those, if you didn't like those old Justice League, Justice Society team ups, you missed the boat.
I'm just saying that when you have that big of a sandbox to play in, and maybe I can bring this full circle to G.I. Joe, if you have that much to play with and you have to find new ways to skin existing characters and to bleed them off to keep things interesting, then you're not really doing your job as a creative, are you? Hey, look, it's his twin we never knew about, Duke Skywalker, but he's edgy. And he's got a brown lightsaber. Like, okay.
Now I want to see Duke Skywalker.
Right? And Bubba Fett, he's got a twang. He likes country music.
I'm just thinking of Duke Silver from Parks and Recreation as Luke Skywalker. That's all.
I just want to see new stuff and minority representation. Absolutely. But give me new characters. Give me new characters. Because I can't say they deserve it. We deserve it as fans. And representation means everyone gets to play.
Something tells me Bubba Fett is not going to be in shape and ready to.
Right?
I can't imagine a thin, fit Bubba Fett for some reason.
You imagine him going to the armor, and she's like, "It's going to take a lot of Bexar."
Yeah.
Cover that up, baby.
That's all right. I got all day.
How you doing, darling?
Hey, thank you very much.
I'm not so much as a bounty hunter as a buffet hunter, if you know what I mean.
Next news item.
All of a sudden, he's from Alabama. Who knew?
Boom. All right. Rollout Roll Call 2021 is a go. A mainstay of the UK G.I. Joe Action Force Convention Circuit. Rollout Roll Call will take place at Fordingbridge City Hall on Sunday, November 28th. And that is, of course, run by our good friend Dave Tree, who is the owner/proprietor of all the cool stuff. Be sure to look up Rollout Roll Call on Facebook. That'll get you in tune with all the updates and stuff connected with this show. It's always a fun time. We were there when it was a little bit of a bigger show a few years ago. And it's a great time, obviously, with things being what they are. Not so much an international flavor to this one. But if you are one of our European and UK fans, and we know you're out there, we got a few of you anyway.
Yep.
If provided you're not all just using NordVPN and pretending to be from there. But by all means, if you're one of our folks over in Europe, take the opportunity, get yourself to Fordingbridge on November 28th. And take in Rollout Roll Call.
I don't mean to overstep here, and I haven't pre-screened this with anybody, but I think it's long about time that we made David the official tree of what's on Joe Mind. Can we do that?
We'll have to take a vote.
All right, fine. Should we do it while Joe's gone?
No, we can't do that. She'll come back and punch us.
Fine. Yeah,
we just talked about how frightening she was.
She's getting all warmed up this weekend. She's going to come back and yeah.
Will she? That's the trick. Will she come back exhausted, or will she come back ready for war?
Something tells me that she doesn't get exhausted.
Yeah, you know what she lived through last year, so you're probably right there.
Anyways,
I'm excited about Rollo. I have never been to the UK, and I need to make that show at some point. It won't be this year, but.
Well,
Mrs. Weber's a big fan of Jolly Old England, so.
And furthermore, you get down to the south part there. When I went to Rollout Roll Call, it was in Southampton, which is where they launched the Titanic from, of course. So there's all kinds of historical stuff down that way. Fordingbridge isn't too far from Stonehenge, from what I understand. So there you go. Some future selling points for Mrs. Webb.
Yeah. I'm sure she knows it all. So we'll. She's always jonesing for that next European trip, which would also be my first European trip. So
fun.
Coming soon at some point. We'll stamp that passport.
She's been to Europe and you haven't?
Several times.
All right. Then.
Like she went with a choir in like high school before we met. She studied there for a whole summer when we were first dating, right? And she came back, and I looked tan by comparison. So it was a good thing. It was a good thing.
Only time.
She and my son went, and I didn't. I stayed with Miss Elizabeth back here. So yeah, the whole European jaunt. Now I don't want to spin it. It's not like she's there every other weekend, but she's probably been there 4 or 5 times. To my, let me count. Carried the 0, none. So yeah. But I go to JoeCon, so advantage me.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, advantage me. I've been to JoeCons in the UK.
Right? And Rollout Roll Call.
Bam.
Yeah,
Winner.
all right.
I mean, that was
Fine.
a roll call. That's the only one I've been to.
Okay.
But I went 3 times. Bam.
Trifecta.
Yep.
Fine. Color me jelly.
Bam. Anyways, moving on.
Okay, Adam Cole. Mike Irizarry, baby.
Bam.
Boom.
Well, sometimes the new catchphrases are easy.
Yeah,
Sometimes it works out that way.
sometimes they just come to me.
Bam.
Bam.
Gets better every time.
It'll be a gift by the end of the week.
Not at all, but it makes me laugh more every time. This is the classic flavor of what's on Joe Mind, Bill.
Beautiful.
Reoccurring gags that only make us laugh. That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do here.
It's like my favorite Simpsons episode where Sideshow Bob keeps stepping on the rakes. And it's funny, and then it stops being funny, and then it goes so far that it gets funny again.
Right.
Yeah, that's us. Pretty much.
Next news item.
Do.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
RoboSkull has there's teaser images for a RoboSkull. New Minnesota-based toy company RoboSkull released images last week that lean heavily on the Red Shadows, which fans remember was the original enemy of UK's Action Force toy line in the 80s that ran concurrently with Hasbro's G.I. Joe in the U.S. Today, in fact, even furthermore, a trailer was released revealing images of a RoboSkull Mark II with a Kickstarter date of October 2021. So coming up very soon. And you can check this out yourself. Head on over to Facebook and check out Skeletron, because that's actually the name of the company. I made a mistake in my notes here. But Skeletron is releasing the Kickstarter for RoboSkull Mark II, and we will see that next month, that Kickstarter project. So knock on wood, fingers crossed. It looks pretty neat. They've got the rotating wings, and they've got kind of just some little tail pieces that fold into shape. It looks to be a very worthy successor to the old Palatoy RoboSkull from the 80s.
My only hope and my lone worry is that they have their legal in order, right? That they've got this all taken care of, because I know a guy named Mark, right? They just name it Mark II and get away with that. I can have my army of lawyers there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and Mark, I wanted to ask you about that. Being an insider, is it your sense that they have the license to do this, or they're kind of skirting around as closely as they can and hoping that nobody notices?
I mean, the Joe team, especially because it's been at low tide for so long, they don't protect very much. They really don't from a legacy standpoint. And part of it is you have to, and this, I guess they have it rolling a bit with classified and with as much as they're licensing out, right? I think if they license somebody else to make Raptor or whomever, that counts as re-upping their trademark. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So, they haven't had a lot to carry trademark-wise over the years. That was part of my job when I was there, was to see which trademarks were expiring 2 years out and see if there was anything we absolutely had to cover, because we would still have time to make a figure or that was, sometimes you'd see kind of random stuff. Like there was a San Diego Comic-Con Mighty Mug of Rom out of nowhere, right? We're just doing Rom, and Rom's cool and kind of a standalone guy anyway, given that that's what the toy line was. But that's because they were going to lose the trademark if they didn't make a toy of him. Okay. So San Diego Comic-Con is a cheap and easy way to put out a toy that'll probably sell out. And if you make the print run low enough, you never have to worry about excess inventory, and it locks the trademark up for another 6 years or whatever the duration is. So I don't think I doubt if they have any of the Action Force stuff locked up. If they were going to lock up anything, it would have been the term Action Force, and they didn't, obviously. So I got to believe most of that stuff is absolutely up for grabs. So,
okay.
Crocodile Joel from Australia, knowing some of the people involved, they've definitely the kind of people who would have their legal ducks in a row. Having had some very preliminary conversations with those same people, yeah, seems like it.
Good.
Seems like they went to the Bobby Vala school of appropriating Hasbro names.
Good. Look, if it's not being used, it's fair game, and that's a good place for them to play right now.
Yeah, that's not a dig on me by any stretch. Again, no problems here with that, but
yeah. The one thing I don't know, and I haven't looked at it that closely yet. Have they talked about the scale for this?
Well, I was just going to comment. Given the people who are involved, we have to be assuming it's 4-inch. Is that kind of the consensus of the room?
I would assume so, because a full-size RoboSkull is a TIE fighter, right? With smaller wings.
I would think so, considering it. The trailer that was released today also made reference to Marauder Task Force and to Dave Proctor and his group, and even Palatoy's Bob Brecken, who worked on the 3 3/4-inch figures back in the day. So everything says 1/18 scale, but nothing was actually confirmed.
Okay.
Was Troy's name on there as well?
I offhand I don't remember, Bill. I'm sorry.
Okay. He does stuff for Boss Fight too, doesn't he? Am I confusing companies? There's
always been a lot of overlap there, so it's tough to say. I'm not sure where those lines are drawn right now, so I don't want to make it sound like I know more than I know, because I don't know that much.
Okay.
We usually save that for later in the show.
Right.
When we talk about things, we have no idea what we're talking about. That's usually the last 20 minutes.
That's my specialty, so I'm jumping in early.
There we go.
That's all I got. So,
speaking of all we got, that's the news.
Wait, I have one thing I want to show off. I'm throwing it in.
Okay.
It's a late ad. I don't even know. This is unsolicited, but a guy posted this on Facebook today or yesterday. His screen name is Simon Lord, and it just knocked my socks off. And if you haven't seen it, I want to show it to you. This here, maybe I can zoom in and make it a little bigger. This is a colored pencil drawing.
Oh, wow.
He has in progress photos and I think a video of him doing this, like with the discoloration on the Cobra Commander arm, right? Like I was completely blown away by this, and it had like 400 comments on it. So it has taken root in the community. But I mean, dude, I was just absolutely floored. So, and I haven't heard his name before. So I don't know if he's new to the community or just new posting his art in the community. But however long this took, I believe it. And let's see some more, Mr. Lord.
Absolutely. That's incredible.
Because I was just stunned. So good for you, Simon. Let's see some more.
I'm not sure how much news that is and how much shout out it is, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. You know what? I want to make sure I got it in. So Simon Lord, salute. That's some good stuff.
Absolutely.
I also have a picture of Manny Machado sliding into Derek Pedroia's knee.
No, we don't need that. That was totally clean slide, by the way.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's the only Joe thing I have. So there you go. Oh wait, hold on while I'm hijacking the show.
Bill, do I just kick him out?
No, the last one, I promise.
Let's give him one more. Let's see what it is, and then we'll make a. Yeah, all right.
Fist bump cat. All right, fine.
Kick him out. Kick him
I'm
out.
done.
He's gone.
And I was actually going to ask him, is it all right?
Oh,
well, now that he's back. We were just talking about trademark stuff and these Kickstarters. Have you guys seen the Airwolf Kickstarter? And I wondered if you had thoughts on that and whether that was going to get shut down or. I
mean, I saw the image of it and it looks, pretty legit Airwolf, but they aren't selling it as Airwolf, right?
I think I saw that name.
Oh boy.
Something,
I mean, I think you could get away with it if you stayed away from the name because the Airwolf copter is just a modified Cobra copter or something, right? Like a legit helicopter tweet. So,
Yeah.
but if you start dropping the name on it,
Of course, you know, the copyright law is a weird thing. So maybe they have the rights to do action figures based on it.
I mean, that's another thing is if nobody's after Airwolf right now, right? So if they go to Buena Vista Entertainment or MGM or whoever owns it and say, "Hey, you want 10 grand?" Sometimes they say, "Sure."
They shrug their shoulders and say, "Why not?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people looking at it and saying like, "Man, I'd really love that, but I don't want to throw my money in because there's a great fear that, you know, it's gonna come this close to getting funded, and then somebody's gonna swoop in and say, hold on a second, you can't."
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, it's pricey. I think, right? Wasn't it way up there?
I didn't look hard. I knew I wasn't gonna throw money at it, so
Yeah.
I didn't check it out that closely.
I haven't looked at it that closely, so maybe I spoke too soon. But it wouldn't be the first time that I spoke too soon.
So, anyways, let's move on to our the meat of today's show. Finally, 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
Bill Nedrow, how you doing?
Yeah, you know, if you told me my life depended upon complaining about something today, I'd say get the firing squad out. It's been a pretty good day.
There we go. Right. Got you on a good day. Good thing we didn't do the show yesterday.
Right.
Yesterday sucked. 6 first grade. Oh, sorry, we're talking about that.
I give you all the credit in the world. I wouldn't survive 2 hours. I just don't have that patience or energy.
I think this is my gift at the end of that run. So I'm happy to be here with you boys.
I mean,
so Bill,
see what happens when I don't have Joe Colton here to maintain order.
I'm getting a little loose. I should have taken my Ritalin, but
yeah. And just a reminder to everybody, if you're watching us on YouTube tonight, go ahead, hit the like button on our video, subscribe to our channel. If you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and react. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a little heart. Give us a little huggy guy. We love little huggy guy. And that lets Facebook know that you're here. Also, at some point, come on over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to us here too, because that'll help us out in the big picture as well. So, Bill, how did this all start for you, man? Why are you sitting here on a G.I. Joe podcast tonight?
Well, I mean, the real answer to that is I was a big Star Wars nerd, and one day my buddy Bob came to the playground and said, "Man, you got to check out these new action figures. They've got way better articulation." And yeah, I got hooked.
Same here, man.
And
I remember seeing Snake Eyes and seeing his arm do this. And that was it for me. I never another Star Wars figure again.
Let's throw a caveat in here just because I know it. That does not mean Bill broke up with Star Wars on any level.
No, it just means G.I. Joe filled that 1984 void that existed when Star Wars went away for a number of years. But no, I have a basement full of G.I. Joe and Star Wars and just about every other property you can think of. So much so that it's bleeding into the other levels of the house and making my wife threaten me on a daily basis. So yeah, and I've been fortunate enough these past few years to be doing some writing in the type of genres that I love, which is I guess why you guys thought I was a suitable replacement for the lovely Joel Colton tonight. So yeah, I've been real blessed to be able to tell stories in kind of that vein of G.I. Joe and these other great kind of toy properties.
And to be clear, I had never met Bill ever, but read some of his Kindle World's Joe fiction. As part of my role at Hasbro was to start perusing through those and just to see how they were, how the program was, if there was stuff in there that we thought might be valuable down the road. And I absolutely adored the Joe fiction that he wrote. And it helped spur it and some other really good stories up there, spurred the idea of the fan choice figure, where we wanted to have a new character from fan originated fiction become an actual G.I. Joe figure. And so Bill's character was one of the characters in the running and the winner. So if you have a Stiletto figure out there, and I hope you do, because it's a really good fig, one of the ones I was most happy with from my short run, Stiletto, is Bill's creation that we borrowed, I guess, as Hasbro, and turned into an actual figure released on shelf. So I gotta imagine, because we all made our own Joes. Hell, I still do, but I do it with a screwdriver and a new O-ring. What's it like to see a character you created from the ground up? I mean, I know we sent you some, I think, but to see it on the peg, I mean, dude.
It's I mean, it's been years now, and it's still surreal. I've got a little detolf next to where I write, and got a little display of some of the things I've done. And I catch myself every once in a while just stopping and looking over there, and wow, did that really happen? The first one I got at retail, I didn't find at the store. My buddy had found it for me, and he lived about an hour away. I think I made the trip in about 35 minutes. Midway through dinner, he texted me, and I think I just dropped my fork and ran straight to the car with no shoes on. But yeah, I had to resist the urge back when there were Toys R Us's to, I'd walk in and I'd find it, and I'd want to grab somebody in the aisle and,
right,
hey, and security is kind of, okay, you got to leave again. Come on, get out of here. But I got to tell you a funny story. Mark, I think I've probably told you this story before, but the night you called and told me, for about 10 minutes there, I was on top of the world, right? Like I just was waiting for my wife to get home to tell her, and I couldn't tell anybody yet, but I was waiting to tell her, and I was just floating on cloud nine. And about 10 minutes after you and I spoke, my son had a bug or something and ran to the bathroom and didn't make it. So I went from thinking I was the king of the world to being down on my hands and knees, like scrubbing the floor. And
there you go.
Like, well, okay, all right. There's some perspective. There's a reminder that
right back ankle deep in poop.
Almost. There you
go. Right. So it brought me back down to where I should have probably been in the first place. But,
right.
But and the great honor of that was the other people who were in that contest all had wonderful stories and great characters as well. So it was an honor just to be in that competition with them. I have so much respect for Justin and Jim and Troy and what they produced. So just to be held in the same esteem as the rest of them was great, and then to have that it's one of those things I'm going to look back years and years and years from now and be able to hang my hat on.
I think it's great, and I think I was always really proud of that contest because they really hadn't done anything like that before, right? So it is kind of standalone. Had I stayed, I think I would have pushed to make the other characters from that contest, because there really were, robust, vibrant submissions. I could have seen any of them as figures, and given time, I think we would have seen all of them, or at the very least, I think we would have done it again on some level, even though the King of Worlds program went away. I really, really liked that bit. I thought it was a great way to connect with the community, and I thought it gave us one of the best modern figures. I think she's sensational, and and again, like we talked about before with diversity, I like that she's not cookie cutter on any level, right? She's a completely unique character, and the fact that she happens to be female is good, because we always want to have that gender diversity in the line that G.I. Joe always has, right, since '82 at least. So it was funny when I first joined the brand, and they had some on display at, I think, a JoeCon, and obviously it was ones I hadn't worked on, right? Because it takes a while for your ideas and work to make it to market. A fan came up and looked at all of them and said to Daryl, "No females this year, huh?" And Daryl actually looked at it, and he hadn't thought about that, but it hadn't occurred to him at that moment that there were no females in that year's line. And that bothered him, right? Because he felt that he had missed on some level, because that's always been an important part of the Joe brand. So,
Well,
but go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say that I've always had a great respect for Daryl DePriest, but that speaks to the type of person he is and how much he cares about the lines he oversaw.
Definitely. So when we wrapped up, when Joe went away for a little while before it's come back, you actually moved on to another Joe-ish project. And if people don't know, can you tell them a little bit about your involvement with Action Force?
Sure. I've been fortunate enough to have scripted at this point 5 issues of the Action Force comic for Bobby Vala and his Valaverse. I know that I'm allowed to say that I've done one more that's coming out soon, and I know then he's got an issue coming out as well. I don't know that I'm allowed to say anything beyond that. Although
Come on. No, you don't. I'm just
no. Well, maybe no.
I'm allowed to point out that he introduced another character recently, and it's, if you've been reading the comics, you could see that a lot of the comics are introducing characters. So
there you go.
You can draw some conclusions from that. If
somebody puts 2 and 2 together there, that's their own speculation, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get in trouble for just pointing out facts that are out there.
Bobby plays it all really close to the vest, right? Like Bobby and I get along real well, and I like to think he trusts me very, very much. But when he was leading up to his Sergeant Slaughter announcement, and I didn't push him. I was just, I've bent his ear here and there and offered advice when asked, and done a little bit of file card writing for Action Force. Mm-hmm. And he had a question about the timing of when he was going to dump that. But all he would say was, "I have something really big. So if you were in my shoes and had something really big, when would you drop it?" And I gave him some advice, and I said, "Bobby, obviously do what's best for you. I get it, but I'm a secure source. So if you want to share it with me, you absolutely can." And he's like, "Yeah, I think I'll leave it at really big, Webb." Like, yep, I had nothing. So I know how
stonewalled.
He takes, that's his baby, man. He takes care of it. So, and I respect the hell out of that, right? So good for him.
Well, and I mean, talking about surreal experiences, I had been writing a few issues, and then he contacted me and said, "Okay, the next issue is going to be introduction to the celebrity representative, and it's going to be Sergeant Slaughter." And I thought, I get to write a comic book with Sergeant Slaughter. It just, again, another one of those things that you look back and you go, "I never would have thought this was possible, but I'm going to enjoy this and have the time of my life doing it."
Somewhere 10-year-old Bill is just doing backflips.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, I mean, this year-old Bill would be doing backflips if he thought that he wouldn't, probably cripple himself and not be able to sit in front of the computer and script that out. But
10-year-old Mike would have been crippled by doing backflips. Certainly, wouldn't have worked out well at all.
When we had him at San Diego Comic-Con, when he was signing in the Joe booth, I got to be one of the autograph wranglers, basically, for Sarge. And I was just leaving him alone, basically, right? My job is to be, I would say bodyguard, because that's a joke. But my job is to wrangle the line and keep people moving and spend time talking to them if Sarge isn't ready and that sort of thing. But we had a time when they were, I think one line had finished and they hadn't brought the new queue in yet. Mm-hmm. So I had a moment with him. And just said, "Can I get you anything? Are you doing all right? Are you thirsty?" He was like, "No, I'm good." And we just had a dead moment. I said, would it be all right if I got a photo, Sarge? "You bet." Stood up, gave my phone to somebody. And I said, I was gauging it, right? Because he's a showman. And I figured I've seen enough of these. He'll do it with me. But most people go for the Cobra Clutch, right? Would you put me in the Cobra Clutch? And I just said, could we lock up? Would you lock up with me? Right? And he's like, you ready? And we actually locked up on stage. Nobody's looking, right? But I got a good picture locking up with Slaughter. And I mean, he's never not Slaughter. So he's got the mirrored sunglasses on and the chin just getting bigger and bigger as it gets closer, because we lock up and I give it pretty good because I don't want him to think, I can't. And I know he'll crush me whenever he wants. And when I'm ready to let go, he doesn't. And I'm like, I'm going to follow his lead here, like any young wrestler should, right?
Right.
And he pulls me in closer. And I'm like, I'm just going with it. And he pulls me in closer. And that chin is coming for my face. And he gets in really close and he goes, if I was wrestling a guy I liked, a friend of mine, I'd wrap my thumb and I'd dip it in iodine. And I'd pull him in real close. And I'd jam that right up his nose. And I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? I'm being hazed by Sergeant Slaughter on stage in front of this line that has now been brought in.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget it because it was Sarge's gravelly voice. So he goes, I'd jam it right up his nose. He'd smell that for a week. And I didn't even care about the photo anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I got a story.
He's always, we've met him a couple times, but he was at C2E2, which is the big Chicago convention, when my wife and I were there. And she was dressed up as the Baroness that day and passing out information on my newest novel. And he was selling the San Diego figures at his table. I think they $100.
Yeah.
In which, given eBay prices, was pretty reasonable.
Sure.
And then he was charging for pictures. And so I was going into a panel and I knew my wife wasn't interested, and I'd been thinking, because I didn't have I missed the San Diego figure. So I was thinking, geez, do I want to drop that money? And so finally, I handed her the money. I said, look, go back to his table, see if he'll take $100, but he also has to throw in a picture with you. Right. So she saunters up looking like my wife does. She's a very beautiful woman. Mm-hmm. In her Baroness costume.
In the Baroness outfit, which helps, right?
Yeah. And she said, my husband, he says he'll give you $100, but you got to take a picture. And he dragged her back, and a crowd formed, and for like 5 minutes they're just posing together. It was great. And then she took, so she's got a picture with her arm around him. So the last Joe Fest, she took that picture. She took my sideshow Baroness, and she printed out a picture of Destro and ripped it up and threw it on the floor. And then she's got the Baroness laying there, kind of clutching the picture of the two of them together. So she entered that in the photo contest and won. And then Sergeant Slaughter was there. So she walked out and she said, "Look, Sarge, we won." And he said, "Oh, let me sign it." So we've got that up on the mantle right now.
That's pretty awesome.
He's always been just fun and gracious, and
he's so good at shows.
Yeah,
and it for that whole story to work, it also helps to have a wife who's a fantastically talented professional photographer. So there's a lot of artistic creativity running through the Nedrow house.
Yeah. Well, and I can't wait to run into him again and just have the issue that I wrote with his big chin on the cover and say, "Sarge, that was me."
Yeah. Man, when that thing's coming at you, oof.
Oh, I'll bet.
Right?
Watch out for the thumb, man. Just now that you know the chin is just a distraction from the
from the iodine thumb. I want to see Slaughter cosplay as Bill Cower. I think that'd be great. But
I don't know if his chin is big enough.
That'd be a fight, man.
I mean,
I'd love to see that.
I mean, having literally almost run into Sarge at Joe Fest a couple of years ago. And mind you, I'm not a small person either, but he filled the hallway. It was just like, holy God.
Yeah.
For a guy in his late 60s, I mean, he'd put most mortal men in the ground.
Once you add because he's always wearing the big jacket, right? Add the big jacket and the big hat, and dude, like, that's significant.
He casts a profile.
Yeah, he's the guy, and I love that Bobby nabbed him for Action Force, because it was a very, super shrewd move. So good for him.
Great get.
Yeah.
So, Bill, what else can you tell us about your run on Action Force? Well,
I should say that I'm working on a novel. It's working might be an exaggeration. I was working very hard on a novel this summer, and with the semester kicking off, I've been working a little less hard. But a lot of the early issues, especially the first couple, were just 6, 7, 8 pages, just a real quick introduction to characters. And then as we've gotten a little bit further into it, I've been able to do a little more world building. But I'm really excited now to sink my teeth into something where I'll be able to kind of flesh out, a lot of Bobby's ideas and this world that he's created, which it's just been so much fun to play in. So I can't give you a date on when that will be completed, but that's something coming in the future, and I'm really looking forward to getting that out there.
So now that you've done some prose and you've done some sequential art books, what do you like doing better?
When I went to college, my dream was that I was going to someday write comics. My big problem with writing is that I always have a very clear image in my head of what's going on. If I'm writing a scene, I know exactly where the desk is and what color the wood is and where the telephone is. And I sometimes struggle with conveying that with words. So it's really nice to have an artist, I can focus on the dialogue and I can focus on the plot, and to have somebody kind of take that burden off me. It's been a lot of fun. And Bobby's found some really great artists who've been able to take my scripts and, I get the pages back and I go, well, that's it.
Right.
That was it. When people are reading prose, I have no idea if the image in their head matches what I was envisioning when I was writing. Mm-hmm. But with comics, I get the art back and I go, yep, that did it. So that's been real rewarding. And again, it's nice to have that crossed off the bucket list. I said way back in '92 that someday there'd be comic books with my name on it, and now there are. So that's been gratifying.
Very cool. Mark, you got something?
Just along those lines, and be honest with us, of course. Hasbro obviously interpreted your description of Stiletto into an actual figure, and some of it was tied a little bit by the parts that we had to use because we didn't get to do 100% brand new sculpt head to toe. One of the things people either know or don't know about her is when we got the original figure back, they had used Zorana's upper arms for the Stiletto figure. So it had these kind of vented shoulder plates going down to mid bicep at least. And I really didn't like it. Because she was, even though she was a martial artist and an edge weapons specialist, she was a soldier, I thought, first and foremost. And so I was able to push back, get those changed to, I think it was Lady J's half-rolled sleeves, which for me worked a lot better. But this was a character, obviously, you worked very hard on, and then we interpreted it into its first and only figure by using existing parts. So how closely did that Stiletto come to your original vision of her?
I think it worked out real well. I remember when it was unveiled at one of the Joe Cons, somebody said to me, well, she's the head sculpt, she's pretty ugly. And I thought, well, good. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're running around the jungles and, living the life of a mercenary. She's not a model.
Got a big scar going down half her
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. I mean, she's not the femme fatale. She's something else. And for me, the head sculpt, sold it. So and I loved the paint job with the white going down the braid in the back. Yeah, I think it worked out real well.
I mean, I was happy with the head sculpt, and sometimes that was all you would get, right? For that, sometimes all the tooling you had was give me a new head, but at least you would get, the most important part of the figure would be unique. So once they swapped out those shoulders, I was happy with how it looked. But I wasn't the papa, right? I was a fan like everyone else who read it, but when it's your baby, it's a little bit different argument, I think.
Well, but I mean, all of those that came out under your tenure, I mean, you must have a kind of paternal love for.
Oh yeah,
especially probably Tombstone. Would you say is?
It would have been, right? But Tombstone didn't work out the way I wanted him to be. I wanted him to be, and it's easy to say it now because this character resonated, right? But my idea of him was Killmonger, right? I wanted him to be it sounds lame to say fashion conscious, right? But I wanted him to be a proud, borderline vain, but talented and dangerous tactical leader. He was supposed to be, well, that's why he came with Duke. He was supposed to be the anti-Duke, so to speak. And so the line I always used for him was, I want him to be the guy who blows up the Hoover Dam, but delays his exit so C-SPAN gets a good shot, right? He wants people to know. I wanted him to be African-American for sure. Because there just hasn't been hardly any African-American characters on the Cobra side. And I wanted him to be unmasked and on some level handsome. Because I wanted to break that mold of the bad guy who was always hooded or scarred or crooked, or it was, we always get to wrestling sooner or later, but years and years ago, when they finally unmasked Kane, the ultimate bad guy, and they kind of mucked him up to look a little bit weird, I thought, wouldn't it be better if he just looked normal? Isn't that scarier? If the guy doing all these terrible things is just a normal looking dude, or God forbid that Tombstone came from a semi-well-to-do family, that he's well-educated, that he's good looking, and he's a complete evil terrorist because he wants to be.
Yeah. Not
because he was forced there or abused into it, or I think it makes it such a better story to go, no, this guy's just broken. Well, not even broken. He's just bad, right?
Yeah,
he's just awful. And that's what I wanted. And when we got him, I sort of thought we were there. If there's any video or images of the original prototype, Tombstone has both eyeballs painted. And then when the final figure came out, they scarred up one of the eyes, which again, now we're a Stiletto ripoff, right? But I didn't want him. Yeah, I don't want him like that. The scarred villain, like how many of those do we have? Or the masked villain, or the eye patch villain, or it's such a trope now that I think it's scarier when the guy could be a rock star, and when he's had all these advantages and just still decided that he was going to have to take a darker path. That's what I wanted, and I didn't get it with Tombstone, and I can't. The biggest frustration for me in my entire toy career, and it happens over and over, is when you get the first image from the factory, or the very first time you've seen the physical example of what you've been planning for 2 years, and you say, that's wrong, fix it, same day. And they say, too late, it's already done. I got that on the Crimson Rattler that we put out for San Diego, was way too pink. It was supposed to be a much darker crimson. It's supposed to be a crimson Rattler, not a fuchsia Rattler. The tattoo for Gung Ho that was brand new tooling head to toe. And everyone liked that figure so much that this flew a little bit under the radar. But the tattoo for him is like mid-Adam's apple, right? It's supposed to be centered between the pecs, but it's way up on the neck. And first day I saw it, I said, we got to drop the tattoo. Oh, sorry, Webb, they already made the whole run. Then why even bother sending me stuff, right? Like the Cobra officer that made Joe scream at the initial reveal of it didn't have a mask over her nose, which I wanted and had asked for, but they chose not to do. And I guess it's one thing when it's a disconnect between the designer and the marketer. That's a fixable problem. But when it's the factory just didn't follow instructions and you don't even have time to correct them same day, that is so frustrating. And not just a Hasbro thing. At McFarlane Toys, at Toy State, at maybe RMS. We'll see. I wasn't there long enough to see my toys come out, but it's going to be a good Christmas for all you RMS kids out there. But yeah, that was an ongoing gigantic frustration for me. And for lots of brand managers. It wasn't a web thing. It was just a factory thing.
So with the mask, is that a disconnect with the sculptor? Is that how something like that happens?
That's a designer not listening.
Okay.
Which doesn't happen that often. And I always prided myself that I would sync really well with my designers. But that one was, we had issues like that once in a while. And the fact that it was being done when I was on Joe, the design was being done in the Burbank office and everything else was being done in Rhode Island.
East Coast.
So not that there's a disconnect. And in today's, society, you should be able to connect with a designer anywhere.
Right.
But there was stuff that was done that I think it was, I don't know what it was, but there were some things that were done that were just not what we asked for. Tombstone's Eye was one of them. And
they pulled the old, we're going in a tunnel bit on you.
Yeah, like, oops. Yeah, oops, too late.
Yeah. Can't hear you.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So, but it was especially frustrating on Joe because we had so little newness every year, right? That you really wanted to hit a home run with every slice of item count or tooling budget that you got to use. And when it didn't turn out because of the factory, that's one level of frustration. But when it's simply a disconnect, which is a polite way to put it, between design and marketing, that's actually a problem. And had it gone on longer, there probably would have needed to be a discussion, if not a change. So, because I never had that on Transformers, right? Like I tell the story of we made Geoxus once, a Decepticon, the worst of the Decepticons, the mad scientist. Mm-hmm. And he's supposed to be this just dirty orange, right? This just kind of scuzzy orange color. And they'd never made him as a figure before. And when we first got him back, he was peanut M&M orange, right? Couldn't be more kid-friendly, happy, shiny. And I was just brutal. And I went to my designer on that specific figure, and I'm like, brother. And he's like, I know. And I'm like, we have to fix it. He's like, I can't. And like, this is wrong. This isn't what we agreed to. And he said, do you think I'm the one that chose that color? And I'm like, oh, it came from above. But that was enough, right? We had a conversation about it, and he said, I can't change it. And a marketer certainly isn't going to go up a level and out argue a VP of design. So basically he said, I was told to change it. I can't go back to him, and you probably should. Okay, fine. So for you Transformer fans out there, if you want to know why you got peanut M&M G-Axis, there you go.
It's because of a lucrative cross-branding promotion with peanut M&Ms.
Right? And then I can't tell you how much fun it is when the photos get shown and the feedback is, what the hell? Why'd they make them like peanut M&M orange? Don't they know what they're doing? And you're like,
well, and you're the guy on the firing line, right? You're the one who has to take all that.
Yep.
Lovely.
Yep. And answer it appropriately, right? Like I like to think I was always open and honest with fans, but sometimes it's only as honest as you can be, right? So when someone would ask me at a BotCon, what was the deal with Jax's color? I would go, yeah, man, that did not turn out the way I wanted. And that's at least honest, right? But I'm not going to throw a VP of design under the bus saying
right.
he wanted the dirty, scuzzy, evil scientist to be kid friendly.
So, Bill, now that we're done interviewing Mark, is there anything you can throw out there anything that we missed? Was there any just juicy bits that we have not asked you about that we need to know for the work you got coming up?
If you're interested in the type of military fiction that I've done, the G.I. Joe stuff is out of print, but I know Marauder Task Force has maybe 3 or 4 copies of the novel I did for them still in stock. So if you've been enjoying the type of world building and the type of military fiction I do, you can check out the novel I did for them, which it's been pretty well reviewed, and I think people have enjoyed.
And of course, if you want to get caught up with Bill's comic work at Valaverse, head over to valaverse.com. There's a little menu at the top there. Just click on comics. You can order all 5 issues, with a 6th one coming soon.
And they've recently been made digitally on Amazon.
Oh, excellent!
That's great.
If you want to read them on screen, that's another option for you.
Lots of people like that, and I am not one of them.
Yeah, I can't do it either.
But my brother is a voracious reader, and I never thought he would ever give up the physical turn of the page. And he is a comic guy, but he's not a comic book collector. But he went completely Kindle, like a decade ago. Like,
wow,
it's so much easier. I've got all my books right here. So, I mean, I get it for some people, but for me, man, there ain't nothing like the turn of that page.
Yeah, I love having
having
something physical in my hand. Mark, you and I talked at one point about Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men.
Yep.
And how I wanted to get my wife to check that out because she's such a Whedon fan. So that's what we've been. I've downloaded those from the library app, and we've been reading those digitally every night.
Yeah.
So Rack Time Rob does have the question: does that connect to Comixology?
I think that's the platform. So if you go to Amazon, then yeah, I think it's Comixology, I believe.
So maybe.
Yeah, it wasn't my department. I didn't even know until the announcement went out.
Right.
So,
do your own research, Rack Time Rob.
Yeah, geez.
Again, I had to have those physical copies in my hand, and part of the course, I knew Bobby was going to send them to me just as soon as the conventions where he sells them are over, but. I couldn't wait that long. I found somebody on his tank. I said, okay, you're going, you need to buy them for me and send them to me immediately. Cause just like that experience of walking into Toys R Us, I need, I've wanted to do this for decades. I need to hold those issues in my hand and see my,
right.
So
yeah, that would maybe be my lone complaint to our friend Bobby Bell. Bobby, get a hook Bill up. Come on now.
And he did. He did.
A little quicker. Yeah. Bill's waiting.
He's got an entire Toyland that's about to launch. I know he's got a few other things on his mind.
I know, but still.
Yeah.
He's our pal. He's a
good enough friend I can throw a knuckle that way.
Come on,
Bobby. Okay.
Get any opportunity to throw "come on" out there, I got to take.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You alluded. I don't know how common knowledge this is, but you alluded to having been responsible for some world building there as well, right, Mark?
For which? Oh,
for Valaverse?
No, I very, very little. I got to talk with Bobby before he had announced anything, really. Just a little bit about the creation of the world, and I offered a little bit of feedback that I think he took a little bit of, but he had such a clear vision for what he wanted to do that I wouldn't spin that I was even barely responsible for any of it. But I did get to write the first draft of the Sergeant Slaughter file card, which is pretty cool. And I got to write the Bone Collector file card. Mm-hmm. And he's my favorite character by far. And not because I wrote the bio, but I just dig it. I think he's cool in a very unique way, and I like the variety of all the characters. But when I was at Hasbro, I got to write a couple file cards, not many because they have someone who does that, right? But that was my favorite. That was, to me, the highlight of working on Joe, was being able to write a file card here or there, because I thought the file cards, aside from the articulation, it was the file cards that brought Joe to life for me as a young kid. I just ate them up, and if I didn't know the military jargon on the back, I was looking it up, and that was a lot harder back then in '82, right? I didn't just plug it into the Google machine or ask my friend Siri.
Uphill both ways in the snow.
That's it. So I dug that stuff. The realistic part of Joe is always what hooked me, even though the bleeding edge or barely sci-fi parts of it was important too, I think, to all of us. But I like the real military stuff. So the stuff on the back of the file card, or on the file card, and also in Larry's comic, where he would say, he would drop Charlie Mike, and then at the bottom it would say, Blue Asterisk and continue mission, or popping green smoke. What is green smoke, and why are they popping it? Oh, okay, so they're clearing the LZ then, right? Now I know what they're talking about. Love that stuff. So
Mark, you would say for you it was the file cards, the comics, and then the cartoon, and then Mike, for you, would it be the same, or?
Yeah, I think so.
In regards to what I considered my
main influence,
I would say
because I think especially the comics and the cartoons are they're very divergent in terms of how they kind of portray that myth. So
sure, I would say I think the comics and the file cards are kind of on the same page, though, because it's Larry Hama writing both of them for the bulk of the run, right? So I don't think that those two paths diverge very much. Rob and I were both definitely comics guys, and then there would be some characters on the Sunbow show that got a lot of play that Larry didn't have a whole lot to do with, and they kind of filled in the gaps. So when we would play with Joe in the backyard, we kind of followed the comics continuity. There was a lot of Neil Ross Shipwreck running around too, right? Because you have a character that resonates that well, you can't just ditch him. He's got to get to play, right?
Yeah. So take the best of the cartoon and merge it with the comics and the file cards.
Right. We'd like doing our little 9-year-old kid Jack Nicholson. So I would say that was it. We didn't really discount either, but we were more comic book than cartoon.
Yeah.
And for me, it was file cards because it was hard to find the comics, right? Because I didn't know we had a designated comic book shop in my little Bend, Oregon hometown.
Because you were fighting Tim Roberts.
Well, that was it. It said Pegasus Books. We didn't know there were comic books in there. So yeah, it was getting them off the spinner rack, and they would only get one of the Joe comic in. And I didn't know I was fighting another kid for that lone copy at Long's Drugs all the time.
He's going to find you.
Yeah, I know. And then, eventually it got kind of dark, but it was issue 6 before I had a Joe comic to read. So, and the other thing too, I have an older brother. He's 3 years older than me. We tend to like the same stuff because we're both awesome. But he was aging out of toys, right? So 82, he would have been 12 when Joe launched, right? So he still thought it was cool, but he didn't need the figures, really. He was just getting out of it, whereas I was all in. But he liked the file cards, and he would read the comic, right? I'd buy it, he'd read it, because that's how Mike rolls. But he loved the comic, and to this day, he'll drop stuff from the comic. Once in a while, I'll just get a text from him, and it's his favorite bit, I think, ever, is where Quinn lost his mind and just decided he was going to break Dr. Venom. And there's this, 50-point font of him just screaming, "The bear wishes the weasel dead." Mike will text that to me now and then. That might not be a direct rip, but that's how Big Brother Mike remembers the Quinn Venom buddy cop movie.
It's funny how little panels or little things stick with you years and years and years later, right? I remember when Grunt goes off to college, and he's sitting in his dorm and he's looking at that picture of some of the original team. And I left college. I had a real big close group of friends, and my wife's a photographer. She was taking pictures all the time, but there wasn't one picture of all 12 of us. Kind of like how Grunt had on his desk. So I remember when we got married. Like my wife had been dreaming of getting married since she was born. She had the whole thing planned the minute I proposed to her. And she said, what do you want? And it said, the only thing, I want the Grunt picture. I want I want a picture of all 12 of us that I could put on my nightstand. It was just kind of a little throwaway panel, but just like Quinn and Dr. Venom, Larry wrote this stuff that just connects with you in some weird way.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not from a seminal issue, right, that everyone else remembers, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it is a favorite of lots, but I was always the shakedown issue of Ace versus Wild Weasel in that long, prolonged dogfight. And the end where they're both beat to hell. Their jets are barely flyable. There's no weapons left. And they just arc off and they both salute each other. And then the co-pilots scream at them, "What are you doing?" And they're just like, now, it can be taken the wrong way because both co-pilots are female at that point. But it wasn't a pipe down girl kind of thing. It's a pilot thing. We would understand.
I mean, and what were they going to do? Fly into one another?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's roll forward. Unfortunately, we're starting to get a little long. So, Bill, we'll let you go first because you're the guest. What'd you get in this week?
Let me see. Was it this week?
I mean, you could go back a little. It doesn't have to be just this week.
Well, I got Grunt and the Cobra Officer.
Oh, nice.
So those
did you
are
find them
taken
in the
care of.
store, or did you get them in the mail?
I did. No, I found them in the store. I hit about 5 stores every morning before I log in or go to work, and most weeks, all I have to show for it is gas receipts. But so yeah, it was wonderful to find those on the pegs. Let me see. I found slag at a Meijer.
Very cool.
My Dinobot collection is getting a little better. And
you're up around Chicago, correct?
Yeah, about 45 minutes an hour west.
Okay.
And she hasn't come yet, but GameStop finally is sending me my 6-inch Aura Sing. So I'm almost done with that wave. I just need one more figure, and I'll be able to cross that off the list. So it's been, relatively speaking, a pretty good week compared to the past few weeks.
I giggle a little bit because I can't even imagine being stretched that thin collecting wise, right? Like I dabble in Transformers just a little bit, and I'm all in on Joe pretty much. But Star Wars is a beast, as you well know. So.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I had the stress this morning of trying to order that stuff on Target.com.
That's right.
And now
Boba Fett
and the droids. Yep. And now I'll have the stress of seeing if it gets canceled every morning when I wake up.
It will.
And then I'll have the stress of will the cards be beat up when they arrive. So.
Well, at least you got it ordered, right?
Yeah, the first hurdle's done, and it's no wonder that there's a lot of collectors who are bald because it can be a tough mistress.
Right, but not up here. Look at this.
Yeah,
luxurious.
Yeah, he's looking good.
Luxurious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Too broke to order anything. Yes.
Mike Irizarry brought to you by Troy Polamalu.
Yes. That is my shampoo.
See?
Bill, is that all you got?
Bar of soap.
Right? You're saving money on hair care products.
That's right.
And turning it into Aura Sing.
My dial. Dial it up with Bill Nedrow.
There you go.
Mark, what you get?
I got a couple things in this week, and one is more exciting than the rest, but I am a big fan of the Headhunter Stormtroopers, right? And I never got this JoeCon one. So I found the file card because I like file cards, and I would follow it up with a figure at some point. So I was happy about that. Sometimes, like Joe, exclusive file cards can be really expensive because most people, if it's an exclusive, a collector usually has it. They usually keep them together. So a loose file card is pretty good. I was really happy about this because I didn't have this version of the Locust, right? I have the other one. I have the silver and the bluish cockpit, but
Okay.
this is the one that came with the actual General. So it's harder to find. So I found one in really good shape. It just needs stickers. So
Perfect.
that'll be next. And speaking of, so I bought this once and I lost it. It's from Repro Labels, and this is for the. Why did I go small? I'm the one showing off. Okay.
Give me a second, Jesus.
Just saying. This is for the second Slugger, the Desert Slugger, that went to Toys R Us in '98, which is one I remember when that stuff came out. But I think just out of college and not making much money at my radio job yet, actually ever. Pardon the. Let me fix that. And I looked at those, and that was the one that went, I don't need that, right? The original Slugger I've got it. It's in good shape. I liked Thunder, and Thunder didn't come with that Slugger. It was gung ho. So that was the one I went, you know what? I don't need. And so say again?
You were wrong.
I was wrong. And years later, it cost me a lot more. But I got a pretty good Slugger in. It wasn't in box, but it was in bag, right? So never assembled. And I assembled it a couple weeks ago, and guess what? No stickers. I didn't even realize it didn't come without stickers. So,
Diana question mark.
You can make it Canadian if you want.
All right.
Because Repro Labels is cool like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on, as God and Hasbro intended, and it'll be a U.S. military Slugger. But I'm going to save the Canada stickers and see if I know any Canadian Joe collectors on this show that I can send the rest of the sticker sheet to. Because I'm pretty sure Joe can Canada up something and make herself happy. So anyway, so that's what I got. But this, and we talked a little bit slightly, if it was early show or pre-show, but the return of Lazy Bastard Customs is right around the corner. And this bad boy was the key to that door. So stay tuned because there's some good stuff coming, I promise.
All right. You got to actually click on that. You have to actually watch.
It's going to be so good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I imagine I'll know about that in advance, though.
Probably.
I'll probably be on the early release.
I think you'll be involved. Either you or Rob. Somebody. Right.
So I had a pretty light couple of weeks in that it was a little crazy over here. I actually we canceled the show last Thursday, right? A week ago Thursday. Where Joe was at a different show last weekend, and then Mark and I were just like, there isn't any news. We've been going at it for 9 months without taking a week off. We got Hasbro PulseCon coming up in October. We just took last week off. It's good spot to get just a weekend to recharge. Within an hour of making that decision, I received a call from my younger brother in South Bend, and he needed somebody. He had gone through his entire list of staff and part-timers and emergency people, and he was down to me, the guy who's been out of radio for at least probably more like 20 years, but at least 15 years. Needed somebody to go run the board for him for minor league baseball. So I had to go and run the radio board in South Bend last weekend for the South Bend Cubs against the Quad City River Bandits High A baseball finale weekend. And it was something else. Thursday, or rather Friday was easy. Drove up there, drove right to went to my job in the morning, got in the car in the afternoon, drove directly to the station, and learned how to use the software and got familiar with the board again, and the game went off no problems. So no issues on Friday, easy.
Perfect.
So on Saturday, I get back to the station probably 4 p.m, and Jimmy is there too. He's in a different studio. He works for a group of stations, and so on another channel, they're running a post game for the South Bend, for the Notre Dame and Purdue game that had just finished. So he's busy doing that thing. He's got me set up in another studio. I go in, the game starts, and then right as they're about to get to the first pitch, the feed dies.
No.
Dead air, and I'm just, it was one of those moments where it just, like, you feel the little cold sweat thing just go on the back of your neck. Like, uh-oh. So being from, my radio training, any noise is good noise. So immediately I just start playing commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And then while I'm waiting for that feed to come back, because basically what the station that I was on was some, robot country music station that they just have to have the extra frequency. Mm-hmm. And normally, there's no live air talent on that station ever. They just play top 40 country, and that way they've got that frequency if they need it, if they get clogged up with too much sports stuff. So I'm taking songs out of the 3 a.m. play log and transferring them to what I needed right that second, so I could give myself 3 minutes of time as opposed to 30 seconds of time. I'm learning how to use their programming software on the fly. And it was a little nuts. It was a little stressful. So we finally, I'm powwowing with Jim and with Jim's boss, and they're freaking out. They don't know what's going on, because I obviously, when I finally got myself 3 minutes, I got out. I started knocking on windows. Hey guys, look, hey, noise, something. And so I was like, hey, well, on our end, we have a radio station that's working, right? I have put music on this radio station, and it is playing that music, and everything is great. So the technical issue is not with us. Technical issue is out in Davenport, Iowa, home of the Quad City River Bandits. And so the station owner had to call the manager at the stadium, and they had to reboot their entire network. So by the time the 4th inning rolls around, we finally have a feed that we can stick with. Now, mind you, it came up a couple times in the interim, so I undid all the work that I did, and then the feed would drop, and I'd have to redo it again. So yeah, for the first that 4 innings was rough.
Now, did your brother sell you on this as it'll be easy?
He did.
Yeah, I think
he did. But at the same time, he's lucky that he had somebody who knew a little bit about what was going on to go and fix things when they broke.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So most people have there's a test, and I haven't studied, or I don't have the homework and the teacher's calling on me nightmare. I have I'm running a radio program and I don't know how to do it anymore nightmare. This button doesn't work. That doesn't pod up. Because I've been out 20 years. I have no idea what goes on in a radio station now. And I'm petrified of pushing the wrong buttons and screwing up a live broadcast.
It's basically the same. It's all the cart machines and the DAT players and the reels. They're all gone. They've all been replaced by various computer stacks. So it's conceptually the same. You just have different stuff at the end of the button. But it's I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, I got over that fear real early when I was in college, that just so long as it's not silent, you're okay.
Right.
So I would hit buttons.
But Mike, I always figured I was qualified because I've seen every episode of WKRP in Cincinnati. You're saying that no longer gives me the background to do what I need to do?
That actually provides you with more than you're making a joke, but that actually provides you with more than you think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can drop a frozen turkey from a helicopter,
you're in.
You can work in radio. Yep.
It dropped frozen turkeys. They were live turkeys.
Were they live? I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
The line is, "As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly."
We watch that. That's our Thanksgiving tradition. We come home from Thanksgiving feast, and my wife and I put that on.
Right there. Boom.
It's funny every year.
Yeah, no, that's a classic. That's one of the 25 best episodes of anything ever.
I might put a top 5. Yeah.
But yeah, it just I don't want to split hairs and get it because Lord knows that list gets rough at top 5. But
right.
I think for the record, I think you're right. But when I came back on Monday, I went down to a little shop. It's called the Toy Drop in the south side of town. And I got myself one of these guys. And he's just a real good-looking 1986 Viper that they had on sale there. He's pretty outstanding. Slightly less outstanding, but still in the really, really good category is his Python brother here from 89.
Yeah.
So that's what I got. We saw them on – you can see them on the Instagram feed, which is down below in the links. Speaking of down below, be sure to like and subscribe to us if you're catching this on replay. If you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and give us a reaction, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a huggy guy. We love huggy guy. And just let everybody know that you're here and paying attention. Shout outs, Bill Nedrow. Who we shouting out to this week?
I'd like to just say a word about a friend of mine and a great member of the community. His name was Joe Ryan, and unfortunately we lost him a few weeks ago. So I just wanted to remember him and all the people who are kind of missing him. We're with you.
Yeah, and we mentioned it the week that he passed because he was an important part of the community and then beloved by anybody who met him, even if it was just online. Like just an absolute quality dude.
Yeah, the community is lessened by his loss.
And he wasn't it one of his true joys in this last year was that he's in one of the Valaverse comics, right?
He is. I can share an image down here, right? Is that?
Yeah. Just click the little share button underneath your picture and it'll pop up for me. You'll get a menu, and then once you click it there, it'll pop up for me here, and I can pop it on the screen.
Okay. Yeah. I wrote that comic, and I had no idea that Bobby was going to put him in it, and then Bobby had actually sent him the week he passed away was the week that of his birthday, and Bobby had sent a big framed, blown up image of the page that he was on, sitting there next to the Sarge.
If you can zoom in on it a little, Bill, that would help.
Let me see. Here we go. So, there's an image of him there with the Sarge, and he's on the next panel as well. So yeah, Bobby sent that to him. Unfortunately, it didn't get there until after he had passed away, but it was featured prominently at his kind of memorial service. And then Bobby sent me one as well. So I've got that in the living room, kind of remembering Joe, because like you said, Mark, he made an impact on a lot of people's collections and a lot of people's passion for many, many toy lines.
Yeah, and I remember him talking about this, right? How it was mind blowing to him, right? It was his stiletto moment on some level, right? So yeah. This was really well done, and I know it meant so much to him. That's way cool.
Yeah, it's something that his son Obi, years from now will be able to look back and show his kids. So yeah. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here.
Sorry. But anybody else you want to shout out to, Bill?
Nope. I think I've taken up enough of your time.
All right, somebody's bailing out early. No, Mark Weber, go ahead, shout out.
Let's see if I can remember all 6 of my first graders from this week. So there's, I made them little name tags for the deaths that they like. So there was Queen Bella of the Owls. There was Lord Nathan of the Leopards. We had a stuffed leopard named Jake. that he liked. There was All-Star, All-Pro Bryson. There was King Blake. He got the first one because he was the kid I had first day. And when we were on the playground alone, because we were dealing with people at recess, he said, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know, you're the king. And I went, King Blake, what shall we do this fine day? And then there was, he changed it eventually, but it was Race Car King Jackson. Was very important to him. And then the king thing kind of caught on. And so one kid was Sonic King Logan. So there you go. My first grade class, what would they be? They would be the class of like 2033 or something like that. So good for them. Stick with it, kids. Don't let your rough week with Mr. Weber dissuade you from the joy of education. But really, I mean, they wore me out, but it was so much fun working with kids that age, right? Where they were, and one of the things that I liked about it, and again, it is a Christian school, so everyone there is generally pleasant. But among all six, all week, not one bit of nastiness among them, right? To be with kids who are first graders who probably haven't learned how to be mean yet, that was kind of cool. So, I mean, it's coming everywhere. We're not immune to it at Barrington Christian Academy, but that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. So that's my shout out. 6 people.
There you go. You got them all with nickname file cards there.
Right. I made new ones for the other 5. And then I made I encouraged King Bryce, who was first. I encouraged him to make a new one for himself since I'd already made him one, right? And he made it. He liked it so much he threw my old one away. Oh, and here, one last story. We were talking about pets, and I was talking about our cat Colin, who has 7 toes on each front paw. And so I was trying to find a picture of it. I was scrolling through my phone, and Nathan, the youngest, I think, of them, came up, and he saw me scroll past a picture of my high school senior photo where I'm wearing a black suit and I'm leaning on a tree, 18 years old and cool as anything. And he says, wait, is that you? And so I scrolled back to it and I said, that was me when I was 18. And he said, oh my gosh, you used to be so handsome. And my initial reaction was, that's like the nicest things anybody's ever said to me. And then when I had a second to reflect, I'm like, wait a minute. So obviously he could tell that there's 30 miles of bad road between there and now. But I don't think he meant it mean. Because if so, it was the only mean thing anybody said all week in that classroom. But you used to be so handsome, before.
Before life.
Thank you, Nathan, Lord of the Leopards. And the one-liners, apparently. Wow.
Yeah.
Shecky.
Right? So I'm my own before and after. That's good.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh, give a shout out to first and foremost to Ragtime Rob, the 4th man, unsung hero of the What's on Joe Mind family.
Totally.
Give a shout out to, of course, our guest host, Bill Nedrow. Big round of applause.
Oh, goes around.
Of course, to Mark Weber for being here. To Joe Colton, who is again at RetroCon. She'll be as that Egyptian lady on Saturday and Cobra officer on Sunday. If you're in Philadelphia, go check it out. Again, retrocons.com. She's a guest there. She's got her own booth and everything.
And if you're there, we're sorry she hit you.
Right. Right. Just be careful. Speak slowly. Don't make any sudden moves. And be ready to throw it up, forearm up, just to defend.
Don't take it personal. And on some other level, you're not special. You're just in range. You're just in range.
Hair trigger.
Yeah.
Give a shout out to our sponsors at Kokomo Toys. We'll sing the theme song one more time. Kokomo, Kokomo,
Kokomo Toys.
Kokomo,
Kokomo
Toys.
Toys.
I don't hear you singing the Kokomo Toys theme song, Nedrow. What's up with that?
I was just thinking of the one time I've been there and how I'm due for another trip. That place is magical.
You're not far away enough to have only been there once. Come on now. Come on.
Well, it was, it was with Joe, and he thought that there was like CoilCon or something going on there because Gary Goggles was in the back showing some stuff off. And of course, Gary lived right by us. So, he conned me into driving him out there thinking there was going to be a big G.I. Joe convention. And it turned out to be a guy who lived 15 miles away from me. But the store itself was magical. So you're right. I'm due for another trip.
Mike, I'll send him the lyrics before his next appearance.
Exactly. It's complicated, but we need somebody to hit that harmony. So
and the high note, that's a hard one.
That's rough.
I will. I'll work on my vocal cords next time. Yeah. If I didn't already ruin the show, me singing next time will definitely.
No. We'll get you and this other guy I know. We used to be in a barbershop quartet in Skokie, Illinois.
Ooh. I'll need to get a little bow tie then.
Right.
Those little hats.
A hat and stripy pants.
That's right. I'll put my propeller on my hat and I'm good to go.
Perfect.
We come to think of it.
Give a shout out to all of our friends who are involved in the great projects that you saw during the news segment. Just a week where we knew people who were doing stuff, and you know who you are. We'll certainly talk to you all as we get closer to launch time on those. That's about it for us. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll be back at 9 p.m. for another edition of the TeamStream. If you haven't by now, we're going to get on the soapbox one more time here. Get yourself vaccinated.
Yes.
Okay. Put your mask on in public. Maintain social distance. Be safe. Take care of one another. Be kind. Not enough of that going around right now. As Vagon likes to say, stay safe if you can't keep careful. And that's great advice to have. But thanks for joining us again on the What's on Joe Mind team stream. We'll be back again, like I said, next week. Have a great rest of the weekend, everybody.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime, man. Say the word. You'll be back. Just say it. Say it.
Say the word.
Bring me back. I'd love to hang out with you guys more.